Are you afraid to practice your Spanish? Here's 5 reasons why you shouldn't be. Hola, soy Sara y soy maestra de español. Llevo 11 años en México y si quieren inscribir sus hijos en una clase conmigo, checa la descripción abajo o el código QR aquí arriba. Let's walk and talk here in Mexico City and discuss the 5 reasons why you should not be afraid to practice your Spanish. I'm off from teaching classes today, and I'm taking a break from cleaning up dog diarrhea to bring you these 5 tips. True story. Probably the most common reason why you might be afraid to practice your Spanish is because you're afraid of judgment from other people. Maybe you're afraid of making a mistake, you're afraid of sounding dumb, and I have to tell you, you're going to sound dumb. But the reason why you shouldn't really worry about that is most native Spanish speakers are actually really nice and supportive. Except for Antonio, who decided that it was okay to leave this kind of comment on my channel. Just a quick comment for folks like Antonio here. Piensa antes de hablar, and maybe you should call your mom because it seems like you haven't talked to her in a while. But on a more serious note, honestly, most Spanish speakers are very nice and supportive, and they're happy to help you. As I mentioned, I've lived in Mexico now for 11 years, and I've almost never gotten a truly negative reaction to my Spanish. In fact, most of the time, I'll get people trying to be more helpful than I actually want them to be. Or really more helpful than I even need them to be. But it just shows you how kind people are and how willing they are to help you improve your language skills. If we just walk into this with an air of humility and just say thank you whenever people want to help you, even if you don't actually need it, it's awesome. So when it comes to the vast majority of native Spanish speakers, especially in Mexico itself, you can expect people to be very kind, helpful, and just happy that you're trying. The second reason that you should not be afraid to practice your Spanish is, as a teacher, I gotta say it, the only way you're gonna get fluent is to speak. Now, I know, I get it. I was there. I was one of those people that even after having studied Spanish for 10 years, when I got to Mexico, I just locked up and I didn't even want to order my own food, even though it was perfectly capable. It's awkward. You do feel like, ooh, they're gonna hear every little mistake. And you know what? They are. If a native speaker or a fluent Spanish speaker is going to hear your mistakes. That doesn't mean that they're judging you or that they think you're dumb or that they even care, but they're definitely going to hear it. We just have to get comfortable with the fact that they can hear any mistakes that we make. Even after 20 plus years of studying and perfecting the language and living in Mexico for 11 years, sometimes I still feel a little bit awkward because I do still make the occasional mistake. In case you didn't notice, newsflash, I am not a native Spanish speaker. I do still make the occasional grammar mistake, and you know what? You just gotta pick up and move on. The only way to get fluent is to continue speaking more and more and more so that you can get fluent. I know this because I struggled living in Veracruz for years where nobody spoke English and I had no choice but to speak with my friends, my very patient dear friends, in my broken, really choppy Spanish, and eventually I became completely fluent. Notice that I did not become fluent when I lived here in Mexico City and I only surrounded myself with an English-speaking community. Even though living in Mexico helped and I heard the language constantly, I was not speaking, so I did not reach complete fluency, and that was after having been studying for 10 years. You need to speak to get fluent, so don't be afraid, speak Spanish. Hey, this is a quick reminder that I offer Spanish classes for kids over on outschool.com. You can use this QR code or go to outschool.com/teachers/Senora Sarah or study with my husband who's a native speaker by putting /Senor Eliu. I just wanted to show you I learned a new word. Pro tip. If you just consume Spanish content, you will pick up new words, and this sign just literally taught me this. Trota pista en mantenimiento, I never knew what this was. That's the track. How do you know that? Look, trotar is like to jog or trot, and pista, that's like they use that for the roller rink or the skating rink or a dance floor, any place where you are with your feet on a place. So cool, right? Anyway, this is just a cool way to show that even after years of studying, you can still pick up new words if you just pay attention to your environment. The third reason why you should not be afraid to practice your Spanish is you have permission to learn Spanish. In this day and age, it might be hard if you're not a person of Latino descent or from Spain, Spanish descent, because we might feel almost afraid. There's an awful lot of judgment out there for people that want to learn other languages. They love to throw around these terms like cultural appropriation, for example. But a language is open to anybody to learn, and there's nothing wrong with you learning it. So go ahead, if you're interested in Spanish, no matter where you're from or what your background is, you have permission to learn, and you should practice. And you should feel good about it. The fourth reason why you should practice your Spanish is most people really don't care that much. What I mean is, you might be all up in your head and nervous that people are going to be judging you, and you're going to get all of these hate comments. Like, I do get a few on this channel, but most are actually really nice. And honestly, most people don't care. Maybe on the internet, people can be a lot more judgmental and rude occasionally, but for the most part, people are very much absorbed in their own little world, and they don't have time to be worrying about what you're doing or criticizing what you are doing. They're so busy that they don't have time to give it really more than a passing thought. I would even argue that even the people that choose to be those little keyboard warrior haters on the internet, they really didn't give it much thought either. If they had, they probably wouldn't have typed the mean comment, right? So don't worry so much about what others are saying or thinking. They're not really worried about what you're doing. And the fifth reason why you should be practicing your Spanish is, in the words of my homegirl Taylor Swift, haters gonna hate. This is a message for everybody out there, including myself. Listen, if people are going to criticize your Spanish or give you nasty, rude comments, it's because they're nasty and rude, not because you deserved it or because you did something wrong. Let's go back to my man Antonio here, for that mentioned at the beginning of this message. Look, I'm a person who has been speaking and studying, working on my Spanish for 20 years. I've lived in Mexico for 11 years. I've taught Spanish for 4 years, okay? I'm also training other Spanish teachers. I have been literally hired by a woman from Spain to teach her Spanish lessons because she thought my Spanish was that good. And I'm still getting hate comments from people like Mr. Antonio because they are just nasty. They just want to be rude. They want a reaction. They want to be mean. It doesn't mean your Spanish is bad. And even if it is, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep trying. It doesn't matter how good you get, you're still going to get some rude people because they just want to be rude. So to that I have to say, no te preocupes. No es tu culpa. I hope this video has encouraged you to practice speaking your Spanish. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Nos vemos!